This show highlights the incredible range of academic and experiential backgrounds that shape the people working in healthcare quality, patient safety, and infection prevention and control. In each episode, you will meet professionals who found their way into these fields through very different paths. We talk about personal and career journeys, hiring and retention challenges, professional lessons, and the value of certification. I'm your host, Ivan Goe. Welcome to the Safety Spectrum. Caitlin Jonesler is a product operations and product management leader. She has worked for electronic medical record companies. Caitlin is a friend and unfortunately has had the rubbish experience of not being able to work. She wrote an article on LinkedIn, Takeaways from an Unexpected Gap Year, something that I reposted to my profile. And it is this particular article that we are going to talk about, primarily because I have been in a similar situation, though for a much shorter time than Caitlin. And I can commiserate to some of the things that she's written about. I am going to give Caitlin an opportunity to talk through this article, and we are going to discuss the things that go through our lives as people who are qualified at something, people who are told we are good candidates, but people who are not being hired for one reason or another. As I've said in earlier podcasts, I have never thought of myself as a perfect candidate. And so when I am not hired, I do not think there's anything wrong with the hiring manager or anything like that. There just was a better candidate. But for me as a person, I have to think of that. We are going to consider those difficult questions. Caitlin, welcome to the Safety Spectrum.
Thank you, Ivan. I can't wait to talk to you about this. Having watched you go through your own unemployed time and doing it just so gracefully, I almost forgot you did it, but at the same time, it felt like an adventure you were on. But there was a lot of pain there leading up to the time off and even during it. So I'm looking forward to talking through the aftermath of it, right? I'm grateful to be in that spot now of having finally landed a role I can breathe and talk about what it's been like.
Thank you for saying I did that gracefully. I cheated because I took a motorcycle trip. And for a month, did not have to really think about life. What I did think about is how am I going to pay for all of this? Because gas in California is extremely expensive. I'm going to start with the reality that when most of us are unemployed, I think the first thing that hits us, as you so astutely put in your article, we are often surprised at how tangled our identity is to our job role. All right. Talk to me about that a little bit, about that loss of identity.
So I had actually experienced it once. I moved to North Carolina and was lucky enough to have a role right away. And it was a product manager role, which was new to me, and with a smaller company. And having just come from a large medical records software company to this smaller one, that was an adjustment, moving to a new place. But I didn't even last a full year there before I was let go. And I was devastated in so many ways because I had always been the achiever, successful in my role. I was leaving Cerner, I had been there almost 7 years, and I had just gotten all these awards and accolades for these projects I had done. No one wanted me to leave. They were trying to work it out so I could stay. And then I go to this new environment, and I don't think my performance was its best, but it didn't feel something worthy of letting go with no coaching, no real conversation. It was definitely more of a looking to cut costs to streamline, and they knew what they wanted, and they just went for it. So that was such a shock to my system, what am I going to do? Where am I going to find work? And realizing I'm in a smaller town, and not as many options. At that time, pre-COVID, no one was hiring the remote worker as readily. So this round, one, I had a feeling it was coming. We had just been acquired by a major competitor, and you've heard of the silent quitting that it happens. Well, on the other side, they were silently letting us go by just not assigning work for a little bit there, or not engaging me in the leadership conversations I was used to having. I did my best to not only set my team up, but I was trying to set myself up for it mentally, but it still hit. The day that I was let go, I walked in and told my wife, okay, I don't have a job. And that immediate reaction, thankfully, wasn't at that time like my identity's lost, but it was the other basic needs that were gone.
Yeah.
No insurance. I have an appointment in 2 days. Do I get to keep it? And there was a panic, but not to that level. I had a couple of interviews lined up.
Okay, because you had some indication that this was coming.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm not going to say I took it lightly, but I was like, oh, I'm not going to be unemployed for too long, and I have severance. So maybe I could do a motorcycle trip for a month and, follow the lessons my good buddy taught me on this. So mine wasn't as long. I took a 2-week, I was able to go out to Kansas City to be there for my nephew's surgery and spend time with family and things like that. But
that initial flexibility is kind of nice. Oh man, I have all of this time. But for me, it was a few days. I think my last day was like Thursday. Friday was great. Saturday, Sunday was great. Monday morning, it took me a while to get out of bed.
Yeah.
I had to test with this, like, who am I without a role and a title?
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, carry on.
It took me a while to break the habit of picking up my phone and going to Slack to see, was there anything needed overnight? I unfortunately a little too easily rolled over into turning LinkedIn into that new thing, or social media and spending my time there. But I power washed for like a week straight, which I think was outside of the tennis elbow flare up. I think it was a great thing to do to distract myself in that way, of just breathe and let it go and try to appreciate the chance to step back.
You mentioned doing a lot of house projects. What's good about distracting yourself by just doing projects, by power washing everything?
I needed to have something to accomplish. So I couldn't just sit and think about, when is that next email going to come in? When am I going to hear from this company? When am I going to be able to contribute in a meaningful way? So the projects helped, especially if I think had I actually accomplished them while employed, they probably would have had a much more expensive or elegant solution. Instead, I took some things on and learned some new, Googled how, or talked to a friend about how to fix my furnace. That's not a traditional project I would have taken on before, but suddenly, when concerned about the financial restrictions a little bit more and having a chance to spend some time to do it, it was great.
One of my things is you have money or you have time. With regards to repairs, I go, right now, I have more time than money, and so I'm going to do it myself. There are times when I have more money than time, and so anyway, so
exactly that. Yeah, I did start to do things, and the last round of unemployment, I formed a solid relationship with my couch. It was a loving joke of like, I'm going to hang out with Couch today and watch the entire Veronica Mars series. So this time I was really interested in not doing that again. I wanted to be active and to just try to still feel like I'm accomplishing something. I will say that, and this is kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but while filling the gap of unemployment, I did pick up some like gig work of door dashing and training AI modules, these quick tasks. And that quickly turned into feeling guilty if I wasn't doing a project at home. I could be doing this other job of driving and making a little bit of money. So I got myself into a weird mental spot there, and back to that. I wasn't able to just kind of relax and not do anything for
Uh-huh.
a while. So I told people, especially while interviewing, I want to go back to work just so I can take a break because I was keeping myself so busy
Uh-huh.
trying to feel better about my situation.
I think that is something that is probably standard for high achievers. When you have nothing to do, there's this sense of what is a worthy contribution to the family, to the household, to the shareholders, to whoever. And
Mm-hmm.
when you are not meeting that mark, you just don't deserve to be here.
Right.
You're a strain to the system, and you need to be shut down. And your wife does not feel that way. Your family does not feel that way. Your friends do not feel that way. But for some reason, this is how we speak to ourselves, and we have to do something to contribute. What are the not so good parts of distracting yourself so intensively?
I mean, I pushed myself physically beyond where I should multiple times I just have to get this project done in the yard, and I'm not going to ask for help because that's going to take away from what others are doing, or like I have a weird schedule now because I'm always free. So just assuming that I should do it while people are working. That part wasn't good. I know I mentally shut down conversations with my wife. Things about where I was and how I was feeling about the job situation. I allowed the distractions to cover the noise that was happening in my mind, so I wouldn't talk about it. And that shut her out and from realizing how much I was struggling at times. I think that was project-wise where I was at. And I wasn't great at even finishing the projects I was doing, probably purposefully, so I could still have something to do.
Okay.
It was, well, if I finish that, what am I going to do next?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So I've had a lot of time to think clear, with all of this time off, and started questioning kind of what kind of worker I was. What did I want to go back and be? And I saw that in some of the projects I was doing. Like, I loved being useful at work. I loved being that person that, people come to me, I help them, I solve problems. And that was often reflected in things like I got high scores as far as my communication, my relationships with people. But delivering on things like OKRs, getting those goals accomplished, I didn't have a lot that I could put down in writing at times, like those measurable numbers. And I saw that when I was creating resumes. I saw it for LinkedIn of like, I don't have that home runs score that I could put out there. And people are like, oh yeah, she's the achiever we want. Well, I found myself doing that in projects at home too. Like, I can't list what I accomplished, like a great outcome, because I just felt like I did a good job of mixing it up and hitting all the points. So that's been a fun thing to reflect on and figure out what the heck is going on there. And do I want to keep going with that in this new job, or should I really try to do things differently?
Buckle down and be different. So to kind of summarize your response, the projects helped you defer things that needed to be addressed,
Right.
which was not very helpful with regards to your relationships, which I think you're saying that's your strong suit, right? Compared to the harder metrics. Have you, since this realization, kind of made time to start dealing with the things that you deferred?
Somewhat.
Okay, good.
I'd like to say there's an awareness. I've met it at the door and said, hi, I know you're there, right? Or I'm not allowing it to drive the bus, but I know it's on the bus with me if I can go that route. But I'm still, I don't want to change too much yet or have these drastic overhaul, because I don't want to lose some of the things that I've been thinking about and realized over the last 10 months.
Yeah.
Back to I could go on and continue to be the type of worker I was in this role that is a little bit almost I've done it before, and I could just be that person again, or I can try to take that time to learn and of what I've learned and try to apply it differently. So
Okay.
I'm not ready to address it yet, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. For me, it felt like addressing the things that came up would close the book on them. And knowing my mind, there is a sense of finality with the closed book back on the shelf. I have solved this problem. I'm not going to go back to it. It's done,
Yeah.
and
Right.
so there is a sense of hanging on because I'm still processing it, but also because I do not want to forget the lessons learned.
Right.
And so, like the project, you don't completely finish it. All of
Right.
these things are 95% complete. Tell me about the significance of the names. So you have fun employment and you have the sabbatical. And what is there any deep significance to the names, or it's just things that pop up because you're witty?
I think it did feel good to label the time, and especially not just saying, well, when I was unemployed or I don't have a job right now. And um, that came up a lot when thinking about how to post the time on LinkedIn. What am I doing right now?
Yeah, yeah.
And people seem to take to sabbatical a lot better. Purposeful gap year more than I can't get hired, so I think by putting a label on it like that, it helped me, and especially recognizing how long it's been. I have family members that didn't realize I was still unemployed for as long, and the comment back to it was, "I thought you found something." I was like, "No,
Yeah,
thank you
yeah.
for." So gap year made it sound like no, I came in under it a whole year.
Yeah,
That's not as
yeah,
bad, right?
yeah.
The fun employment that was actually stolen from my coworker who was also let go, and he really did lean into farming and doing these adventures and things like that. So I found another good model to take on that one.
Yeah, I have a friend who started running in the mornings. He called them his fun unemployment runs, because usually when he's working, he can't do that. And he did not enjoy the fun unemployment runs, and so he's gone back to running in the evenings. But 150 applications, 30 plus interviews, over a dozen companies. Tell me about that.
I always felt like I was a great interviewer. Leading up to this, I got almost every role that I interviewed for. And I'm shocked still by how frequently I didn't get past that screening call or one or two calls in. So I tried my best to take what I could from each one. You walk away from some of them like knowing that didn't go well.
Yeah.
But the number of times I walked away from those interviews going, heck yeah, that was good. And then to get that email like, sorry, we chose somebody else. It's like, wait, what? I thought we were good. It was really confusing because, to your point, I didn't blame the hiring manager. Often I found that they didn't know what they wanted. I'd looked at the job rec and, of course, fine-tuning my resume so it matched the job rec, knowing I could do it and I have that experience. So here you go. And then talking to them, I'm like, this isn't at all what you asked for. Or they were more frequently wanted a solution for an immediate problem that they didn't see beyond it. And so I knew I could do the job they were asking for. I knew I could take it beyond that. And having a chance to apply to that many companies, I learned so much about what I wanted and what I didn't in a role. I think you experience a similar thing of what titles are out there or what somebody calls it and trying to find out, that's what you think that is? Okay.
That's not what the rest of us call it.
Yeah.
I am not fluent in HR, and there's so many times where I've looked at a job description and I honestly have not been sure what they want. And you're like, I have no idea what any of this means. But the job title looks right, or the job title is wrong, and you're reading the job description and you're like, I can do this.
Right.
So, yeah. I think it is a gut punch to be in the middle of your career And like you said, having had so many successful interviews and just get into this phase of life where you interview and you're not even making it past the screening interviews. Going back to that identity, even if you have gone past, I am a provider, I am the primary breadwinner or whatever, like this is just a whole separate gut punch.
It is.
Am I even hireable anymore? Like, what happened?
I
And
felt
then
like the opposite of Sally Field up there. Like, they don't like me. Why don't
exactly.
they like me? And thankfully, I had a cheerleader on my side, a couple of them the whole time of like, it's not you. You said it. There was just something they didn't see or a keyword I didn't say correctly, or maybe they just already had a candidate that they knew
Yeah.
that I had to top, and my limited time with them didn't nail that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not making it past the screeners is frustrating, but the times where I did get to a final round and then it didn't make it was even more of a shock of wow, because you start hoping and dreaming of just, wow, that one had a really good salary, or I think I
Yes.
could have been really learned a lot working with that person, and for it to fall through.
Yes. The more interviews you go through, the more you know about the job, the more you start to connect with it, the more, unfortunately, you really do start dreaming about it, going, if I got this is what I would do first. I would love to have another conversation with so-and-so.
Or
And then when it doesn't happen.
it felt like that as time went on and I got more desperate, it felt like that relationship. I don't want to be in a relationship with that person. They have all these red flags, but I really need this job. So you start like, okay, no, that's fine. I can make that work. I can make it. And then they don't want you. It's like, what? No, you can't break up with me. That's a lot of feelings, Ivan. A lot of feelings. Yeah.
The feelings are ridiculous. I do remember many times after an interview or something, my wife would ask, so how did it go? And I would tell her how I think it went. I generally have interviewed very well. And then when you get that message that they're going in another direction, and my wife will always ask, so where are you? So have you heard back from so-and-so? Like, yeah, they went in another direction. But why?
Yeah.
You say the interview went well. What happened? After a time, it just becomes, I don't know. They just did not want me. You have spent a lot of time with your family, meeting your wife's needs, your mother-in-law, your nephew, and all of this. In my experience, that was the good thing about being in that sabbatical phase, where when things came up with the family, you could be right there. And for me, that was a joy. It fed my need to contribute. Tell me a little bit about that. What was good about it? What was bad about it?
I'm already grieving the loss of having that time. We spent a week before the job officially started thinking back there, like, I'm going to miss you. My wife is still here in the house with me every day as I was before, but having the freedom to do whatever I needed to or drop everything to go help and not have to be tied to a job or an obligation that wouldn't allow for that. That was very freeing. And it set me up for a situation where I wasn't comfortable taking a couple roles or proceeding with them because I didn't want to give up what I had gotten during that time. And getting in, even the hard parts were always being together and the stress, and it just felt amplified because there was money situations are known to cause problems within relationships. And so you add in all of these stressors and just say not being confident where things are going to be in a month or two, and being forced to think about it back to I was avoiding all of it. Those conversations became harder during that time. But I still said, like, I wouldn't want to change that even during the hardest days of it. I'm actively figuring out how to keep a hold of that and build that in to this role. And my first day in meeting with my manager, I said, hey, look, I still want to go and have lunch with my mother-in-law one day a week during the work week, and I'll make up time on either side. I didn't say it was a non-negotiable, but very much indicated this is important to me.
Yeah.
And that's something that I wouldn't have done before. And I really appreciate getting that perspective from this time.
And has anything been detrimental to you about being so available to your family?
Not that I can think of right now.
Good.
I mean, there's the long running issue of, doing things for myself and not for my family, but that wasn't the break didn't amplify that anymore. Leaned into serving them felt good to me, and kind of fell back on some bad behavior in that way, but not too bad. I'll take that over other bad behavior.
You did touch on this, and I do like how a sabbatical like this really influences your next job choice or your values when you start looking at the next job. Yes, you're still desperate. You still want to be hired. And yes, sometimes you will find yourself overlooking red flags because I need the check, and this one's a really good one. But when you do get that position that fits, I felt like I was a little bit more confident to ask about things that mattered to me. To ask, you require 40 hours of work from me. Does it matter when those 40 hours are? Do I have the flexibility to do that? All of those are things that come up and I think are very significant to quality of life and the quality of your employment experience. But now, after you've had the sabbatical, it does feel easier to talk about them.
You and I both had the situation of, when we did find jobs, going back into a remote situation, remote work, and the freedom that comes with it. I can't imagine how different it would have been of having 10 months away to being back in an office and being that much more locked down. That part feels a little shocking of what that could have been like. But your next question was,
you said you tried to be social. How social?
I saw you once, I think. Yeah, well, I attempted to pick up some hobbies, and I had a good friend that was going through some things around the same time. So, but it worked for us to be there and kind of support each other. So that helped. And I did try to push myself to go out and do a meetup, or I was doing a D&D campaign just so I could not form a relationship with couch again, but take advantage of the time. Definitely not the same as my younger days of how often I would have been out, but I enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed just getting to spend time outside and soak in that other form of not allowing my body to break down in front of the computer for at least a few months.
Did you find your social interactions were affected by being in a sabbatical state?
A bit. I had, especially when I tried to meet up with former coworkers where they were still with the company, they would get awkward when trying to talk to me about how things were going at work, or they were hesitant to ask me what I was up to.
Okay.
But I think once we got past that, it helped. And or I had friends that we just hung out and did our normal thing and didn't have to talk about that. And that was reflecting, getting back to an earlier part of our conversation, is just making sure work wasn't my identity anymore.
Yes.
So how do those friends that I had that I did work with, we can still hang out and be friends. Like, let's find each other in that. And I think I was able to do it better this time because I was so interested in that before. I don't like
introducing the relationship.
Right. I think actually when you were over for my birthday, I think we talked about introducing people not based on what they do, but something about you, something I appreciate about you, opening up that conversation. So it's not Ivan, the infection preventionist, but this is Ivan.
Yeah.
I ride motorcycles with him. He makes me smile. He's got a really great podcasting voice, but I wouldn't have found that out till later. But, those things, that way it's not just, so you still know who you are when your world shifts in that way.
Yeah. One of the things that I learned from my sabbatical was asking people what they do for fun.
Nice.
I was at a wedding many, many months ago, and I asked someone, "What do you do for fun?" And he heard what do for, what do you do for a living? And he started telling me about my job, and I stopped him and I was like, "Nah, man, I want to know what you do for fun. Your work is as boring as mine, and I don't." He kind of looked at me with these big eyes. And of course, my wife was sitting next to me listening, and she started to remind me that I was probably being a little rude. And so I stopped. I apologized. I'm sorry. I did not mean to be as rude as that came out. He was like, "No, man, that's refreshing. That's great." And so he started telling me, and he, like you, Dungeons and Dragons was one of his key things when he was not spending time with his children. I think that we build more connections that way than by what we do for a living. Infection prevention tends to offend about half the population anyway. So let me ask people what they do for fun. Maybe I'll have a few more friends. So yeah, that's what do we do for fun? What else do we do? Because we must have an identity apart from work. And I think that is a more significant subconscious marker for us than we give it credence. So interesting.
And we had that thinking, making friends as adults is hard.
Yes.
And you think about kids, it's not, what are you excelling at in school? It's like, hey, do you see my stick? It's fun, right? Like, or something like, and
look
cool,
at my
we're
shoes.
friends now.
They light up. They're the same color as yours,
I can run so fast in them. You want to see, and that's it. You're friends.
Absolutely.
And why did that have to shift where, it's like you're friends with people because you work with them. And then once you stop working with them, you're just done.
You do find out that, yes, you're not friends as much. And yeah, absolutely. But having a connection outside of that kind of corporate relationship definitely broadens that relationship. So, yeah. Excellent. How would you encourage people in your situation, apart from your very well written article? Is there anything else that you would say to someone in such situations? You have your credentials, you have your experience, but for some reason or another, the job offers just are not coming through.
Right. I mean, I'm actively saying this to a lot of people still, especially I made a lot of connections with people who were in the similar situation. Either I used to work with them or I met them on maybe LinkedIn or something. It's important first to find people you can talk to about it. It means a lot to me that you read what I put on LinkedIn and, it struck something with you. I put a lot on LinkedIn over this time around some of the frustration and the feeling. And I did it to try to connect with people, to remind them that this is happening. Yes, you're not alone in this. And reaching out and asking for advice or connecting with people in that situation, because they might be likely they'll tell you something that you're already doing. Yes, I'm broadening the jobs that I'm looking at. I'm not just filtering out if its salary is not right or something like that. I'm applying to everything, even if I don't think I'm qualified, just like trying to get out there. But I think it is, I don't know if quantity over quality was good for me in this whole application process. I think with the market as it is, and especially in software, I think I had to keep trying and just seeing it, getting past the AI bots that are likely screening out my resume. I would suggest that people do as much as possible to keep learning during this time. That's been huge for me, not only from the learning from the different jobs out there, the posts that I was seeing, the jobs I was applying to. Like if I saw something that looked interesting, that I might want to go down another path for learning on that. And one of the roles that didn't work out, I actually got the role, and then unfortunately the offer was rescinded because the company did this huge shift and laid off the person I was going to report to. But that person still kept in touch with me and suggested I take a training, because she's like, this is the type of thing that I would have wanted to build with you. And that meant a ton. So if you have a chance to reach out to someone and tell them like, hey, here's something that would have been cool, or support them in that way, but keep learning things that can help you in that next role. Because I wouldn't have learned as much as I have so far about AI and how I could use it to improve my own job and what I'm doing. I wouldn't have learned that in the last role. I would have just kept doing what I was doing because I knew how to do it.
Yeah.
But I heard just today, actually, that there was another person they were hiring and bringing on to my current team. And the key thing they liked about him was his AI experience. And that wasn't anything they talked to me about when I interviewed at the time. Of course, it was like 6 months ago. But at this point, I can be like, oh, yeah, no, I have a bunch of things to bring to the table that I'm excited to explore. Think of this time as a chance to figure out what you want to be doing in that next role and start just setting it by learning about it now.
Yeah.
I think would be good.
Keep learning.
Yeah.
That is great advice. I had one guest on the podcast who, during her time in between jobs, she decided to go to nursing school.
Right.
She took keep learning to a very great extent. I think that helps seeking the sabbatical gift of time. There are these things that I can achieve. I can improve on myself, and for my own self, I tried to learn new things, but I found it, I found it quite difficult to sit down and focus and learn, because in my attempt to learn, it caused me to think about the situation, and then, a little bit of spiraling took place. But I did learn a few things, and I did try to make good use of that time. That might work a little bit differently for people, but
maybe it's also it's not just it's the fun learning. Like my first unemployment stint, I took that time to get my PMP, my project manager professional certification. That wasn't fun learning. I didn't do a great job with that learning. It was something that I knew could help me get a job, or that certification, but finding something that excites you can be, it's still that fun employment moment of that's kind of nerdy fun. I'm learning about this. I use the AI projects I automated that spreadsheet that I was keeping for all of my job applications. I put Claude code on it so it could clean up some things and go through my email and find what I had applied to. Just dumb things that I don't need anymore. But it was a chance to experiment with it, because I didn't have some obligation tied to it from a work perspective, or it was just let me see how I can do this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that's nice. And even beyond that, it's a great time to take up crocheting, or
I did that.
Gardening.
I did that. I did the gardening.
Gardening, power washing.
Yep. I found a lot of things I didn't like to do anymore. Yeah. Cataloged our meat for so there's a lot of things you can do during this time.
Caitlin, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me about this. I'm glad this has been a learning experience for you. It has been a wonderful learning experience for me as your friend, watching you walk through it and dealing with all of these rubbish adult things and still being a great person through it all.
Well, Ivan, your support has meant a lot to me, and I'm proud of you for doing this, and thank you for having me on.